Kane, it's 1-0. We're fucking down. 13th in the championship. The takeover happened as I said it would. People will be. Oh, when have we got Leeds? Now then, people, welcome back to the Just Joe Football Show. I hope you are all doing well. And a later than scheduled, the final word. We're still waiting on JT, the awesome foursome, but we've got the terrific trio instead, haven't we? Happy clappers at the ready. You're gonna get an hours of positivity, yeah. Yes. We will be talking about Huddersfield, and we'll also talk on what is a pivotal big week for Leeds United, really, considering we've got two fixtures in quick successions, and after a 2 points dropped, you could say, you know, we need to get back on that winning run, especially when you consider how well the other teams in the division did at the weekend. Well, I say one actually, Ipswich, Leicester lost, didn't they? So if you're an uber positive, then we've actually closed the gap to Leicester, and we only dropped point. Well, we drew, so it's not too bad. But before we get into it, please do smash a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel, get your comments in. Subscribe to these amazing content creators as well. You've got Jer at Leeds United The View, and of course Jack at City of Leeds Fan, so make sure you check them out. Before we get into it though, let's just find out how people are. So Jer, I'll come to you. How are you, buddy? Did you have a good weekend? Is everything all right?
I did. We drew a game of football and it didn't ruin my entire weekend. I was fine. I had a housewarmer to go to on Sunday that I had a really good time at. I'm fine. Absolutely fine.
Yeah, good. What about you, Jack? Are you busy making music, my man?
I was indeed, yeah. Working as well over the weekend. I worked nights Friday, Saturday. So watched the game and then went out for a few in the afternoon. So
yeah. Few sherbets. Did you have a good night?
It was indeed. It was a stag do, yeah. So, but it was only like a chill. We'd been to like the proper stag do in Budapest, so we just went for a few round Leeds. So nice. It was all right.
2 stag does for the one. Oh, yeah. He's done all right, hasn't he? I'm surprised his missus has let him, man, have 2.
I don't think she has, to be fair. But...
no. I love that. Right, let's get stuck straight into it then. You've heard my thoughts, people. Let's find out what the other lads has had to say. Jer, come on, give us some perspective, mate. We drew. We got kicked the shit out of for 45 minutes at least. You know, on another day, Somerville's shot, inches to the left, we're winning, and there's no negativity about the place. It was that close. So how are you feeling after that draw away at the John Smiths?
We've been saying for weeks that this team will not go unbeaten for the rest of the season. Guess what? We won't. We just dropped 2 points. But we dropped 2 points. We didn't lose the game of football. And I am one of the happy clapper brigade saying we're 1 point closer to Leicester than we were before we kicked the ball the weekend. So we have just about narrowed the gap a little bit. Yeah, Ipswich had a win. But Ipswich last run in the next couple of games is 7 of the bottom 8 teams. They're expected to win all of those games. If they don't, they've proper messed up. And I don't think Southampton fans will be cheering a 4-3 win for long after playing against 10 players and crawling on their belly, a 99-minute winner against Birmingham, a very poor Birmingham side. So, look, it's a point. And as Daniel Farke said today, you win your home games, pick up a point away from every away game, and you'll finish on 96 points. You're probably not going to be in a bad position there. Just keep doing what we have to do. Just keep picking up points. Earlier on the season, we're allergic to teams in 19th place. I think we played Stoke earlier in the season. They were 19th. And then we played Rotherham. I think they were 19th as well. You're like, right, okay, stop playing teams in 19th place. That'd be great. We'd be fine then. But we'd have lost that 1-0 the first half of the season because we couldn't break those teams down. And then we did. And the big thing for me was, I've been saying all year, and people are sick of hearing me saying the word tempo, but when the tempo is slow, we ain't that good. When the tempo is high, we're very good. And the way Huddersfield played against us was the carbon copy model to beat Leeds United. Low block, kick them around the park, wait for set pieces. We've seen it happen this year. The only difference was we actually did get a goal this time. So that's a huge piece for me. I thought some of the stuff was overly predictable. I thought we went down the left-hand side far too often. Cree had a game where he just wasn't going to pass the ball and he was just going to keep putting his foot on it and stopping the game. You're playing against a low block. You need to move the ball quickly. You need to keep moving the ball, move it left to right, move the opposition around. And every time we went to Crean Jr., they put their foot on the ball, stop the game dead. Low block gets a chance to drop in, then get compact, pick up players. And you're playing against walls of players at that stage. I thought when Connor Roberts and Dan James come on, it changed the style of attack that we had. All of a sudden, it was quick passes, getting in behind as quick as we could, creates a goal, and then we stop going down the right-hand side and go back over to the left-hand side again and stay down the left-hand side. So for me, it was decision-making by a lot of players, just bad decision-making. Unfortunately, too many players on one day that had a bad day. You can't argue that the 4 players up front weren't fresh. They weren't played. None of them played against Chelsea. Well, not to come off the bench, but the rest of them didn't play against Chelsea. So I don't know, just a bad day at the office. Put it down to that. Maybe, and I said, if this is the blip that we need to have for the run into the season, I'm okay with that. I'm all right with it. It's a point away from home.
Yeah.
A crappy side who played crappy football on a crappy pitch and kicked lumps out of players, and we still came away with a point. So, look, learn from it, move on. But I think it's probably good dress rehearsal for a Neil Harris Millwall side that's to come. Well, the exact same thing. So, yeah, I'm all right with it.
I think as well, Joe, just to add before I say hello to JT, if we score that goal within the first 5 minutes, it's game over. Do you know what I mean? It's game over. We probably win that 3 or 4, but unfortunately we
overpassed.
Yeah, we
overpassed.
Yeah, we did. Yeah. JT, before I go to Jack for his thoughts on the game, how are you, mate? All right?
Yeah, man. Good to go.
Are you poorly as well?
You sound great.
So I couldn't breathe, mate. I was having a coughing fit. That's why I was a little bit late. Sorry.
No worries, man. No worries. I've been ill as well, man. And do you know what's the worst part now? My back is ruined. And the only place it's nice is in this chair because it's got decent lumbar support. Yeah. So, yeah, man, my back's wrecked. Anyway. Jack, mate, thoughts on the game? Joe said loads in there, and I've took some notes, and we'll go down into some fine minutiae detail after. But what are your initial thoughts on the draw, bro?
Yeah, man. Nobody wanted the point, did they? It is 2 points dropped ultimately, but ultimately 10 games unbeaten. We're going to lose points here, there, and everywhere. What I would add as well with the blip. So, like, if this is a blip and we can bounce back tomorrow, it just makes tomorrow's result so much more important, doesn't it? So if we win tomorrow and the blip's a draw, you take that as a blip, wouldn't you, surely? Because normally you get beat, don't you? And then you think, right, well, now we need to bounce back. But ultimately, I do think it'll be forgotten about, particularly if we get 6 points next 2 games. It would be banging there. And I would take this where we're at, really. Ipswich have been there's been some exceptional teams, haven't there? Like Joe said, what Farke said in the, if we win each and every home game and draw, he actually said he'd take that. He said he didn't want to take that, didn't he? He said, but, you'd sign up to that one, yeah.
Yeah,
it was a shit game. They were really aggressive. The only thing I think about all that stuff, because a lot of people are sort of whinging about that, that's also football, isn't it? Teams come and do that, so you've just got to be far better on the ball and take the beating. Really, take it, because that is a game plan, and it does work. We used to be called Dirty Leeds, didn't we? So let's not pretend 100%. We couldn't mix it. Do you know what I mean? So
yeah.
Some people's game that you just have to be significantly better when your game has to be better than their dirty game. That's
It's funny you say that. By the way, Arsenal have gone 3-0 up in 14 minutes against Sheffield United. 14 minutes, it's 3-0. Martinelli's just scored. I think they all might score tonight. No, when you mention that though, it reminds me of the damned United. You know when they play Derby before they've got the European game, and Billy Bremer, and they kick the shit out of him, and then as he walks off, he goes, "Enjoy Europe," Billy as he walks off, and because his ego let him get the better of him in playing his full strength side, and obviously Leeds just kicked the shit out of him for 90 minutes. So I suppose we can't grumble. And Huddersfield fans are, trust me, I'm in contact with the Huddersfield fan who does the White Rose Rivals, and I said all they've done is kicked us for half an hour, and he went, yeah, and we'll do it again. Because obviously they hate us, do you know what I mean? So Jonathan Hogg, because they've got a point, probably getting pats on the back in Huddersfield. Do you know what I mean? So it is what it is. These things happen. JT, your thoughts on the game, mate?
Oh, I thought it was tragic, to be honest with you. I was watching it at a nice spa retreat. I actually went there for my mum's 60th, hence why I wasn't streaming or anything. And my dad, whipped the game out on the phone, watching it on the table, as you do, just, begging for a goal. I mean, it was just such a painful game to watch. Leeds, for the last half an hour, were all over them like a rash. It was ridiculous, mate. They were trying to rub that Sudocrem on it. They couldn't get us off them. I can't believe we didn't break through, man. Crease, some of it. Oh, how did he hit the post there, man? What a miss. But again, I just felt it, man. Losing to Chelsea. I know people didn't think it's a big thing, but I'm telling you, the fact we didn't win, the momentum gone, I buy into that. And that's what scares me going forward. I think a win tomorrow is really, really, really important. Jackie said, as he said, it makes this next upcoming fixture even more important. I think it's even double important because that will be 3 games on the spin without a win when Leeds looked like an unformidable force, or a formidable force, an unstoppable force who you couldn't stop getting 3 points whether you liked it or not. You know, you could take their car away from them and they're still getting 3 points on their license. You know what I mean? That was Leeds back then. So I really just hope we don't find ourselves in a poor rut of form, because if we do, Ipswich are turning it on now. I think Southampton's blip is only going to be temporary. But if we are going to stick just basically on last week's performance, I thought they looked leggy. I really did think they looked leggy. I thought as the game went on, I think they lacked a little bit of ideas as well. I think emotionally they looked fatigued just as much as mentally fatigued. When it came to breaking them down, there just didn't seem to be any kind of good enough patterns of play for me. Like, I even watched the game back. They seem really devoid of any kind of ideas or creativity, in my opinion. And that would be the scary thing. Now, usually the way around that is to, you know, refresh the squad a little bit, rejig the pack, change some of the players around. But do you guys even think that's a good idea? Because I don't know about taking some of those key players out of the side at this point in the season. I think that's too dangerous. So that is where my issue comes in.
100%. We will touch on all them things while I remember, because it keeps coming in my head and then I forget. I just want to promote this shirt from Tasha's All Leeds TV merch that she sent me, by the way. Sorry, so I've got to do this. I should have done it at the start. My bad.
It's beautiful. I was going to say it's a beautiful shirt, by the way, to be honest with you.
It's nice.
It's nice, yeah.
It's lovely, yeah.
So you can get this at All Leeds TV, yeah. So make sure you check it out. It's a lovely shirt. They do it in blue, white,
yellow.
Not red. They
Yellow.
do it in yellow. Yeah, they do it in yellow.
Yellow's nice.
Actually, not do it in red.
No, but make sure you check it out, folks. It's a really nice shirt, and she does some great merch. She's a graphic designer by trade, so yeah,
really?
make sure you check it out and show some support over there. Joe. JT touched on no patterns of play and all this, and I said it in my post-match. Do you know what it reminded me of in that second half? It reminded me of Jesse Marsh when we were willing on to FC. And what I mean by that is we just used to give him the ball and hope something would happen. Yeah. And I kept saying on my watch-along, James is free, move it to the right, to the right. And we just never did. And I just thought, what was the point in bringing him on if all you were going to do is just continuously funnel it down the left? And do you think that became a case of like, we've run out of ideas, so we'll just give it to our best player and hope he creates something, you know?
Yeah, so before I get to that, I was just laughing. The comment of the night in the comments is from Oliver. Why is JT dressed like Mother Teresa? I thought it was hilarious. Great.
Can a man not be cold in peace?
Yeah, I mean, it didn't make a whole lot of sense. It definitely felt like the players on the pitch made that decision and not Farke. Like, I wasn't critical of Farke in the game at all. I thought the substitutions he made at 60 minutes were proactive. I thought they were the right changes to make as well. Question mark on whether you should have pushed Archie into midfield rather than take him off. But it's, you know, but I do, as I said, if you're trying to break down a low block, you've got to move the ball quickly across the front of that low block. It's got to go left, back into the centre, back out to the right, back into the centre, back out to the left. You've got to shift the defence like this to create gaps between it. And then you hope some numpty out of the back four just gets fed up looking at it and charges out. And then you've got a gap and you get in behind and you get your goal. But we just kept going to Willie, and Willie just was deciding, I'm doing this on my own. Then Jaden Anthony came on beside and was like, I'm going to do the same thing Willie's doing. So you had two players getting the ball and trying to cut inside and shoot every single time. And it just became... It wasn't even that went to Willie and he was trying to do the same thing. For me, it was every time I went to Willie, he put his foot on the ball and he stopped the game dead.
Somerville.
Which meant, Willie Creed.
Willie
Creed.
Somerville. I was like,
Willie
why are we going
and Creed, not though. Yeah.
No, Willie, mate.
Somerville.
No, Willie.
But like, that was the bit that was killing me, because if you're a team that's trying to get yourself to organise on a fast break and a player puts his foot on the ball, you're like, great, I'll just jog back in behind you, get my shape, get the lads in front of me, but I'll pick up a player each. Job done. Now you got to figure out to get around us. I just think the decision making was poor. It started in the first half. Same with great work by Nonto and Archie Gray on the right hand side. Goes into Glenn Kamara. He has to shoot. Doesn't shoot. Gives the Cree. He should score. He doesn't. And you just think, I just hope the decision making is not the thing. Georgie did it in the second half quite a lot. Overran the ball. Lost it. And I said that in my review from the game. It's okay when you get away with one of them. It's okay if you keep on running like Georgie was doing against Plymouth. It's okay to keep running the brick walls as long as one of them you get through and you score the goal. But if you don't get that one, everyone is going to say, why didn't you pass it? Why didn't you pass it? Why didn't you pass it? And that's the margins between it. Most managers will be the same. Like, I don't mind you doing an overhead kick from the halfway line in every game, but if you don't score, I'm going to tell you what you should have done instead, and that's the point with it. But Creed just kept doing the same thing. It became very predictable. It was too slow. Even the overlap from Firpo was slower than it has been. He looked really leggy, but apparently he's suffering from a calf problem, so you could probably understand that to a degree. And again, the same thing, you're playing against 10 players, so you suck them all across to one side of the park. And to your point, Dan James was just standing on the far touchline, just completely empty. Whip it across to him. And then the player that does that is Ethan Ampadu, who arguably had his worst game in a Leeds shirt, running into players, kicking the ball out of play, missing his passes, missing the ball. And you kind of just, it's everything you need to get this going just isn't there. But the only joy we got was from Roberts and James down that right-hand side. Again, I said it just changed their attack a little bit and made it a bit more unpredictable. But yeah, for me, it was decision-making. For me, it was, well, Cree's got us out of this position so many times this year. Let's give the ball to Cree. And he just can't do it all the time. He's had such a big season. And I nearly feel guilty blaming him for, because like, you can't just keep relying on the same person to dig you out of a hole when you're in a hole. You've got to find other ways to win. And as Jack said about Huddersfield, their style is a game of football. It's an actual style of football. It's not a good style, but it was effective in that game. And they'll say their plan worked perfectly. You've got to find ways to beat them. You've got to find other ways to win a game when it's not going your way. And unfortunately, the age demographic of this team showed a little bit where it wasn't going their way. And instead of digging in and finding new ways, they got a bit cranky, a bit sensitive, and start giving away silly Willie Nanto's free kick for their goal. It's such a bad free kick. And it's a reaction to getting kicked 20 yards up the pitch earlier on. Just runs back after your man and kicks him. You're like going, don't give free kicks around, especially in wide areas against a team that have got 6'4" guys in their team, and we don't defend cross as well. Yeah. So it's just bad decision making, but at least that can be fixed. And that's where I'm not too down about it, because I know that can be fixed. And I know we haven't done it consistently this year. So, and I still keep going back to it. We did get out of there with something where, again, first half of the year, I think we lose 1-0.
100%. Everything you've mentioned there about what could go wrong did go wrong, and we still got a point. That's the positive, isn't it? Jack, Juz mentioned a few things there. I think one thing that maybe we could question, as Arsenal are about to score the fourth after 23 minutes.
Big Kai.
Mental, innit? What about the subs, bro? Because we don't know about, say, Gray, right? But I genuinely thought Roberts on Gray in midfield. A lot of people bemoan the fact he didn't bring Mateo Joseph on for I'm not, listen, you've got to take your time with these players. Farke knows them better than most, etc. But do you think we could have maybe gone about it differently with the subs and maybe brought Grujev off and gone with a more attack-minded midfield?
Yeah, I'm not too fussed about the Joseph one. I just think I know he did really well with Chelsea, but I'm really reluctant to say this about my man Farke, but is he trying to be clever? Because obviously against Leicester, he brought Firpo, didn't he? And Gray went left back, Roberts to right back. So it's as though he didn't want to do that again. Do you know what I mean? As though like, well, that's what worked for us last time, rather than just thinking, well, that's where we go with the game, really. But I would have preferred Gray to go into middle, to be fair, in that game. But it's easy in hindsight, that, isn't it? Ultimately. And Roberts was good when he came on. Like, just what Joe was saying about the switch of play and stuff. We definitely weren't moving the ball quickly enough. And furthermore, when we was moving the ball, we wasn't looking. You could tell we was always on the way back over. It wasn't like we weren't looking again. It wasn't like every time we get on the ball in a different area, we're looking for new gaps. It was just like everybody was just like, it's panic mode, really. And I think it's a little bit hiding. I think players can hide without hiding plain sight. Do you know what I mean? Where they're actually on the ball, but they know ultimately the safe bet is to go over left, give it to some of it, and especially when we brought Anthony on, and then there's two, because he ain't a wing back, is he, Anthony? So they're both basically up top on that left wing. It was too much. But there were so many times when James was in literally acres, and a relatively easy ball, and not even like a switch ball, just like Kamara had it, and it was just a 10-yard, just let him get at left back, because James will go, won't he? That's all he wants to do. Yeah. He just wants to get at defenders. So, but yeah, and I felt for Somerville, because like Joe said, that they're putting a lot of pressure on him, really. And then when you have to do it, that'll be why we're trying to slow the game down. Because if he becomes repetitive, then the right back knows what he's up to as well. The centre back knows, just like it's the same thing constantly. You have to keep it fresh, and we didn't hold the ball anywhere in particular either to then move it quickly. You know, we didn't take a stick. We didn't make them think about anything really. They just sat really narrow and deep and just thought, well, come on then. They literally didn't move for us. We would pin with every single player were probably 30 yards out at one point, weren't they, for us, out of their goal, just like holding them in. I don't know. It's really tricky. But like Gray's really good on balling and creative. So, you know, and I love Kamara and I love Gruev, but I think Gruev comes far too deep when we've got loads of possession. So he's not really in any sort of link-up play in that sense. Kamara's not. I think Kamara's mint on ball and he's a really good player, but Gray's a lot more creative than Kamara, isn't he? So it would have been, and I think Gray's the type of his confidence is through the roof, isn't it? And he wants to actually affect the game. So yeah, I think it could have gone different really with subs. But I'm not fussed about the Joseph one. I just think that's take your time with that. I think Joseph ace, and I think he'll come really good. But yeah, I didn't mind that.
No, I agree with you. I agree. There was a lot the morning that some even wanted him to start and stuff, and I just think
that's just wild to me, though.
Yeah,
but I wouldn't start him necessarily. But what I would potentially say, because I've never even been clamoring for Joseph to start in general. But maybe giving him 15, 20 minutes, the reason it might have been smart is because of momentum, because of form. Yeah. Because when you go off having a world-beating performance against Chelsea in the Cup, I mean, your confidence is going to be sky high. And you just, especially as a striker, you just feel like in that time, anything you touch is going to hit the back of the net. Even if it's a 30-yard pop shot or whatever, you just have the confidence of feeling that. So maybe in hindsight, I would have thrown him on for 15 minutes or so, just in case, maybe get an Eddie Nketiah situation where he comes on. And if he does score the winner again, flipping it, could you imagine the size of his cojones after that? Could you imagine the confidence he'd have going into the next week? And then you could potentially build on that. That's 100%. The only thing I'd potentially say is things like form, momentum, and most importantly, confidence are very short-lived, and you have to make the most of them when you get them. And Joe, I know you want to pop in. You've coached a lot of players, so I'm actually intrigued to hear what you have to say on this.
I think you're bang on the money. And it's confidence in a striker. I've said it on my own stream about Piroe. Piroe is just, I'm happy to give Joe Piroe all the time he needs to settle in the Leeds. It's a very heavy shirt, Leeds United shirt, and it doesn't always settle on players as quickly as others. So he's only 24. I'm happy to give him time. I think he's a good player there. But when you talk about trying to win a game, and as JT said about momentum, confidence in your strikers. It was strange for me. It was the only one where I thought, I can't believe that this is the game where he's not bringing Mateo Joseph on when he has in other games, when he maybe hasn't had this level of confidence. He's a young kid who believes in himself. You can see he's got that swagger a bit of like, yeah, I belong at this level. Yeah, I can do this. You can see in the way he plays. He runs around. He's bulked up this year properly. He's very good at holding the ball up. His link-up play is very good, which is arguably what Joe Piroe does try and do when he's in that tight space. It's trying those little short link-up play moments. But Joseph is probably coming into the biggest amount of confidence in his entire career. You use that. You and again, maybe you don't.
Do you reckon? Sorry, Joe. Do you reckon he's done it the other side though and said, "Don't get ahead of your boot"?
Settle them down.
Because
he
might
have
been
this tough love thing with the young players, and he
might have been different in training, bro. He might have been giving it the big one, and he's thought.
That's very true as well. That's my only gripe of Farke this year was being sometimes I think he's excessively hard on the younger players, where I don't think he needs to be as hard. I thought he was excessively hard on Creswell. He had stuff earlier on the season with Archie as well. He said about Archie in preseason. He does have this tough love with the young players, and I think maybe it was a case of you scored your 2 goals, relax. We'll bring you back down a bit now. We'll bring you back in a minute. We'll take you back out. We'll bring you back, and that is perfectly fine. And as a coach, that's fine. It keeps the players level. But you needed a goal. And the kid can score goals. He's got, and the way I described his goals against Chelsea, where he scored 2 very mature goals. The header at the back post, not only to get the positioning right, but the way he just took the power out of the header and redirected it into the far corner. That's a bit of class. That's a mature finish from a guy who knows what he's doing. Hey, you bring him on that game. I don't think you start him, but I do think you use the impact and that momentum, as JT's already said. I think JT's 100% on the money with that. It was the only substitution that I kind of went, that's odd. Like that's the one
just because of the timing.
Yeah.
And to be honest, for me, if he hadn't had that performance against Chelsea, I wouldn't have been clamoring for him to play at all, because I've never been. I've been saying get Bamford in there. I'd actually even be saying, I'm surprised Joe Gelhardt hasn't been given much of a kick in. As I said though, confidence is just so shortly lasted in life that I think you've got to always strike while the iron's hot and not wait for things to fall in your lap.
Yeah. No, I think that's fair. They're fair points. And, you know, we've seen him do a Hail Mary in the past and put alt strikers on. So I do agree with you. I'm not going to stand here defending Farke, you know, just till the end, just because I can change my opinion and all that sort of stuff. And, you know, if he's done that in the past, then why not do it in this game? I hear it. I get it.
There's another piece of that.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Sorry. I'm not necessarily saying I'm Team Joseph. Do you know what I mean? If it come on, I'd have been bang up for it. I just mean my point was sort of suggesting Farke's up to something in that scenario, and there's no way that he don't bring him on really. Maybe it's just to keep him super hungry, because you'd be expecting a role, wouldn't you? After Chelsea game, you would be expecting that. So maybe it's just a mind game with him, or I don't.
100%. You know. For all we know, Jack, he could have been giving it big in training, and we know, like just said, Farke's very much like you know, calm down now, kind of thing.
There's another thing with it as well, though, Joe. I've not been a fan of Plan B this year. We've talked about it before Christmas. We haven't seen it since before Christmas, which is good. I'm not a fan of our Plan B. Our Plan B of let's throw loads of bodies up front and see how we get on. And the reason for that is if you're already playing against a low block, and if you look at it from, say, the halfway line and looking towards Huddersfield's goal, you've got 4 players, another 4 in front of them, and 1 striker with another 10 sitting there, right? And then you add 8 Leeds players in there as well. How are you getting through there? It's just a wall of, you're just putting more players in an area where you need to remove them. Like taking Piroe off and bringing on Jadon Anthony, it's questionable for me, because that's another attacker where you probably need to spread it out a bit more and get Huddersfield to come out at you and pass the ball around a bit more, instead of just putting bodies on top of bodies, and then you're just hoping for something to ping off somebody and go in the corner as deflection. And for me, the Plan B, when it has had to be used, hasn't really worked outside of maybe one game. And it hasn't really worked for me. So for me, I think when you're playing against a low block, it's got to be a smarter move to kind of spread the game out more. You know, drop players, bring on a second 10 rather than a second 9, and maybe bring on a third midfielder and take one of the defenders out and just spread the midfield out a bit more so you can move the ball quicker around the park. It's things like that. That's the only gripe that I have is that thing about dumping more players on top of a low block. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. 100%.
Can we talk about one play that he did come on then? Because I got annoyed at him during the game, and I don't want to turn it into a Piroe bashing session, but I think, you know, we all keep coming round to this. I even heard Graham Smith say it on Inside Elland Road. I'm conscious of making it a Piroe bashing, but I mean, I don't know what he's doing, lads. I don't know what he's offering. He's too cumbersome. He's very slow. Yeah. Can we talk about Piroe? Has anyone got any thoughts?
I do, mate. And there is 2 words to describe his performance yesterday. The first one is butt, and the second one is cheeks. All right. In fact, two objects, cheeks, would describe it, mate. I mean, as I said, man, he's not a midfielder, so I don't know why he was brought on for Kamara. That didn't really make any sense for me. And he can't play. Listen, I don't hate the guy, but as we said before, how can a striker score 2 goals against Chelsea in the cup, and another striker who when was the penalty he scored? It was like a month ago, gets put on in his place. That's the part I can't fathom. Listen, I don't want to keep jumping on the guy, because I know you guys said, as you said, Piroe bashing, whatever. But he can't play in the midfield. He's cumbersome. I don't know what he really offered us. Can anyone really describe one notable great thing that he added to our attack? I don't think he helped the transition play in the midfield. I don't think he offered a focal point up front. I don't think he offered defenders anything extra to worry about. And these are all things that you would hope from a substitute coming on in the 60th minute to impact the game and help with. I know we did go on, and I think we scored actually after he came on. Not that was, you know, too much to do with him. That was Connor Roberts-Bamford. But listen, for me, if you're going to put him on, you have to take Bamford off, and you have to make the gamble of saying, you know, I want him up there. You can't put him and try and shoehorn him into a midfield position. Either you sit there and you say, I think we're going to have better chance with Bamford up front to get us a goal, and I think he's going to impact the game more. Or you say, I think, you know what, I want to trust Joel Piroe and gamble with him in the last 20 minutes, because he can't play as a 2 up front with Bamford. Bamford needs creative players around him. He needs energy around him. So does Piroe. They just don't work together. Piroe definitely doesn't work. I mean, I don't care how deep you try and throw him. You can throw him into Tom Daly's Olympic diving pool. He's still not going to work in that system. So for me, as I said, if you're not going to take Bamford off, I don't understand the move. And I just don't know what he really offered. But I do like the guy personally. I think he's got quality in front of goal. When you see him strike, the technique, he is a very good technical player. It's just about the system and the movement. And as I said a long time ago, you can teach a pianist to play the guitar, but it's never going to be his best trade.
That's a good analogy. Does anyone else have any thoughts? Yeah, of course. Yeah.
As in, you can teach him to play. You can teach who's meant to be a number 9 / played on the wing occasionally to play in number 10. But he's never going to be as good as a natural number 10. The same way a pianist is never going to be as good as someone.
Just never heard it.
It's a good analogy. I like it.
I mean, yeah, I've a 4-year-old nephew who is a big fan of calling people butt cheeks. So when you said butt cheeks, I thought that was hilarious.
I thought you meant I have a 4-year-old nephew who get his analogy. I was thinking, all right.
Yeah, he's always talking about penis and guitar players. It's ridiculous. Yeah. No, I think he's just a victim of form currently right now, because the first half of the season he was chipping in with goals. Yeah, he wasn't offering a whole lot else. And I think we said we were contradicted a lot at the start of the season, Joe. And we said, I don't think Joe Piroe fits a Daniel Farke system, because he's not a Pookie and he's not, arguably Bamford doesn't either, but he's adapted. But I don't see where he fits in the system, unfortunately for him. I do think there's goals in the player. I do think he'll have a couple of big moments between now and the end of the season. I think he'll have his moment. I'm happy to back the guy to come good, because he's done it before. You don't become a bad player overnight. He does know where the goal is. He's scored plenty of goals at this level. He is still 24. So, we've been very quick to write off players in the past. And it's come back to bite a few of us on the arse at times as well. So I'm not going to do it again, because Glenn Kamara's still hanging around. So I'm not going to keep doing that. So I'll give him time. But I do think when Daniel Farke is looking at it, you can force it a little bit. I think he's probably forcing it right now. He's trying to keep putting him in, he'll get that goal. When he gets that goal, and the floodgates open. And again, if you got a player in form like Mateo sitting on the bench, and you go, who do you bring on, the player in form or the player who's out of form? And for me, it's the player in form every time.
Yeah, 100%. It's now 5, by the way. Declan Rice has just scored after 38 minutes. Love it.
Defensive midfielder starts scoring.
Record. Yeah, exactly. Do you have any thoughts on Piroe, Jack? And then we'll start to look forward to next couple of games.
No.
You don't want to touch it.
No, it's just like, I can't disagree with anything anybody's said. You know what? I don't know what else there is to add to it, really. He needs to do better, doesn't he? I feel for him, and I just think, in the grand scheme of things, I think it's always looking towards. We did draw the game 1-1. He wasn't horrendous, was he? I know he got caught on ball a couple of times, but it's not like he's not. There's definitely a player in there, isn't there? I just think I don't know who else would have signed. I know everybody bangs on about these strikers that just exist everywhere, but ultimately we're banging goals in. It's not necessarily. I don't think the return he's brought. I said no, now I'm going off on a rampage here, but I don't think the return he's give this season's particularly poor. I think that's a decent return for what would be expected of any new player coming into the club. So, but it's difficult to disagree with, the fact that he's playing a bit shit.
Yeah, I think it's genuinely the best way to put it. Yeah, listen, we could be in the Premier League and be getting beat 15-0 in just under 2.5 Premier League home games. So
can't wait. Can't wait. Promised land. Oh.
Hey, right, let's talk about the next couple of games, really, but we'll talk about Stoke. We mentioned changes. Listen, for me, I'm thinking Gray in midfield. I'm thinking Roberts at right back. I'm thinking a change at left back, potentially, with Byram coming in for Firpo. I think Nonto for James. And anyone got anything on that? Or do you think he doesn't do that and says, do you know what, I go with the same lineup and I want them to prove me wrong, or what?
He said two things in the press conference.
Run those things again.
Okay, so
there's one of them I'm struggling to find.
Oh, Firpo, right? Okay, yeah, I get it.
I just want you to rejig through those few changes once more.
I think, yeah, Firpo he's played a lot. He played against Chelsea and probably wasn't supposed to, but Shackleton's having a baby's hitting him hard. He's got concussion apparently from waking
concussion, yeah.
I mean, listen, I've had 3 kids. I've never had concussion from waking up late at night unless he's banged his head or something. I don't know how that's happened. But yeah, listen, I think time to see Byram again. Do we put Gray in midfield for some more creativity, or do you think he does that? I don't know. Go on.
There's two things with it, because my head after the weekend went, Connor Roberts has to start. He has to, because he's proven it off the bench.
It's a goal and an assist now, Jer, off the bench, isn't it? A goal and an assist.
And even the game where he didn't get a goal or an assist, he had impact in the game. Like, he's involved a hell of a lot, and he was barking at players when he came on the park. Didn't stop. He was picked up 3 or 4 times by the microphone, screaming at the midfielders to push on. Like, he's invested in this, and he's been very, very good attacking and defending from fullback. So for me, he goes in. Glenn Kamara's possibly the kind of game he's had, and I still think it's a lack of preseason that's starting to catch up with Glenn on certain pitches where he gets a bit leggy. Don't think it's his fault. It's just he didn't have a preseason, so I think that does catch up with you. I think Archie goes in there for that creativity. Yeah, and I think Dan James comes in for Willie Gnonto on the right. Unfortunately, Willie played his way into the team. I think he started to play his way out of the team as well.
Yeah, agreed. I think a lot will be made about him giving away that foul as well, you know.
Yeah, there will. They think on Firpo as well. Firpo's got a bit of a calf injury, and Daniel Farke said that it's a bit of a knock. It's a late test, but I won't risk him and make it worse. So that says to me, Sam Byram probably comes in there. But on the flip side of Daniel Farke picking the teams, he said, these players need to know that they have trust and backing, and I do. So he's picking the same team. So I don't. He says one thing, and then he says another thing. You're like, oh, fucking know what you're gonna do.
Jack, would you advocate changes, or would you say no? Let's keep it as it is.
I'd bring Byram in, because I think Byram, just every time he's come back into the side, he just hits ground flying. It doesn't matter whether he's been injured or not. And I just think Byram it's just been exceptional for us every time he's played, really. I wouldn't make a change with Roberts yet. I think that really works off at bench for a start. I think Roberts probably will finish the season. But I feel a bit for Kamara. I bang on about this all the time, but I know I've just said it 5 minutes ago, but Gruev coming deeper, I do think he's having a massive impact on Kamara. Gruev goes and gets it off the centre-backs constantly, literally takes it away from him, off the feet. When Ampadu were playing that central midfield role, you know, a couple of months ago, he can play a 10-yard pass into, if he progresses into just 8-10 yards, it just takes everything further forward. Ampadu can play them balls. Rodon's good on ball. They've also stopped running it out. I don't know if you've noticed. You know, Rodon and Ampadu used to always go on a bit of a charge, and that cuts stuff up a bit. And it's like Gruev came in that game, Huddersfield game. He took the ball off Rodon. There were nobody behind him, and he gave him it straight back. I just thought, if you're going to come and steal it off him, at least turn and try and look forward. Like, I'm not saying Gruev don't look forward. I'm not having a go at Gruev, but I just think that's having an impact on Kamara. You see, he's never coming deep now. He's always in where Gray would be better than Kamara. Kamara's a better defensive midfielder than Gray, and he's a lot surer. But I think in the further forward role, that is where I would go with Gray. But I think if you dropped Gray for Gruev, that same thing happens, because then Kamara comes into what would be his better role. So I don't think it really matters which one you swap him out for, basically. Gruev looks really good on ball as well. There's some, Kamara doesn't look as sexy, does he? Gruev looks really sexy on ball when he's playing little passes, and I do like a bit of that. So.
Yeah. But Kamara has that top of the shoulder that I could watch all day. He just does that, and then the two players run off that way. It's just that, and they're gone. Yeah. I love that. You can watch that all day.
And he does get through a lot of yards, like Joe said. So he probably is feeling it a little bit, and like the preseason, I agree, won't have helped whatsoever.
That's a good point.
Ultimately, no, I wouldn't go Roberts yet, and I think I'd have to stick with Gnonto for now, even though a month ago I'd have definitely said, "Oh, just get James back in." I think he'll stick. I think he'll stick with that front four for now.
Okay. Fairs.
Whatever says.
No, exactly. You've just got to back him, haven't you? Because he's not steered us wrong so far. JT, what do you say for Stoke?
What about it? As in changes?
Do you make
or
changes?
how did
Yeah, do you make changes?
Potentially. As I said, though, I agree. I think I'd keep Gnonto in the side, to be honest with you. I wouldn't be jumping to change him because of a couple of bad performances. I think that could quite destroy his confidence, and I think just the team seems to flow better. Listen, in terms of changes, would you potentially put Archie Gray into the midfield and Connor Roberts right back? That's
how we started this conversation. So you weren't paying attention.
Well, no, I was. I'm saying, would you do that, or is that too? Because it's not really refreshing the side, is it? Because Archie Gray played the full 90 against Chelsea. He just played against. They played what 70 minutes or whatever on the weekend. So he's not 100% fresh legs. There are potentially better options, but I would potentially do that. Connor Roberts hasn't had a lot of minutes. He's going to be quite fresh. So that would be the one move I would make, and it would be for Kamara. I would put Gray and Kamara in there, but that would be the only move. I wouldn't take Nonto out. You know, Firpo, as he said, if there is the injury problem and he is unfit, then maybe you put Byram in there. But that's, again, those are the only options I would make. I don't think there are that many personnel that we can actually bring into this side, which is the problem I've always said. I think our first 11 and maybe a couple of players, like our first 13, is phenomenal compared to the rest of the league. But the depth in other areas, I think there's just too much of a gulf in quality. Like
I don't necessarily agree.
Bamford
I remember
can't be taken out. Rutter can't be taken out.
Oh, right, okay, yeah, in terms of replacements, yeah. I still think the bench is strong for this division. I think this bench walks into most sides. You know, even when you go as far as Cooper gets in at most sides at centre-back, I think. You know, the bench is quite strong. I think anyway, for this division, at least for this.
But
division.
I'm talking, yeah.
But you're on about straight
as
swaps,
in
yeah,
what you're talking about is like, can they come in and do a job? Will they be a serviceable player? Someone gets injured, someone has to come off with 20 minutes to go. Yes, but do we have players who can really change the dynamic of the team, change the dynamic of which we play with their quality? And I don't think we have that many players of that ilk on the bench personally.
No.
I'm not disagreeing with you, JT, because I agree, but that is the case with every team as well, isn't it? Like, you know, Man City, just depending on the level you play at, but Man City'd say the same about Haaland and De Bruyne, won't they? So it's Rutter's been an exceptional championship player, hasn't he? So we'd struggle no matter what team he played for. That nobody be able to replace him. You know, it's I take your point.
They do still have Julian Alvarez and Bernardo Silva and other players, but yeah, you're right. There is obviously when you have your marquee, of course, when you have your marquee players, no one's gonna.
And Rutter is our man, isn't he? There's no two ways about it. You know, we're so much better.
But I just think that there's such a considerable drop.
I agree with you, JT, in terms of like, you know, you like you're saying they can come on and do a job, because I like Cooper, for instance, like Joe just said, but Cooper's shouldn't be playing centre back for us anymore, you know. So but he would get into some of the other sides in the Championship, but we're not some of the other sides where we're looking to push the Premiership out, Premier League. So
I think there's a knock-on effect on some of the positions, though. I mean, the fact that you can't. I mean, Roberts, I think, has made a big 10.
You mentioned 10's huge. Right?
But we're lacking a 10. But in other areas, like the fact that against Chelsea specifically, you could look at the fact that Roberts comes in means you can put him right back, and there you've got an extra midfielder in Archie who gives you something a bit different in the middle of the park. So that's a different option. Jesse, probably one of the few things you would probably write about is you could actually turn Archie into a number 10 because he's quite creative as well. So you could push him on, but he's not a natural 10. The one for me that we're lacking is a backup number 10. Like that's if Georgie's not on it, which he has been for the bulk of the season, to be fair to him, nearly every game bar one or two. And the game against Huddersfield was probably the only time where even when he was having an off day, he didn't get an assist or a goal, because against Plymouth he wasn't great, but he got a goal and an assist that day, even though he didn't have a great performance all around. Huddersfield was the one exception where it just nothing clicked for him. So not having a backup number 10 to put in there who's creative, who could change things, that was something that Leeds looked at in the summer. They didn't do it. Rutter has the season he's had. Leeds don't bother going in for one in January. Something they'll have to look at next year because they will need more options in there. But I do think we've enough in a lot of positions. But as I said at the start of this, Willie Gnonto and Cree are very similar in how they build up their attacks. So if teams are doubling up on both of them, or you know, you need something different. That's where Dan James or Connor Roberts changed it slightly, or even pushing. I have no issue with even watching Junior Fripper playing as a left winger because he's quite direct and he's pacey and he's got a good cross on him. Like, so that changes the dynamic as well. But you've got to have things that can change the game for me, and that's the big part. Is like it's not a case of bringing on like for like off the bench when you're playing a game like we had against Huddersfield. You've got to bring something on that changes the style, changes the build up play. And we probably don't have that, but we haven't needed it, to be fair. And if we score that goal in the first 5 minutes, if we don't overplay the ball, and that's been another thing that we've got away with for quite a portion of the second half of the season, over carrying the ball and overpassing the ball, trying to do an Arsene Wenger Arsenal on it, just pass the ball, walk the ball into the back of the net. If we shoot in the first half, we're 1-0 up. They don't play a low block for the rest of the game. Different game. We've got to score early against these teams to drag them out. So it's probably just a freak.
I think as well. I think this is a great point which we haven't really thought about when we're talking about tomorrow. Richard said because we play on Friday, we have to use the squad. There has to be something in that as well. There can't really be minimal changes because we've played on Wednesday. Well, basically it's four games in 10 days. That's going to put the Sky and the fixture people have taken the piss out of us, if all told, because the fact that we have to play Tuesday and then again on Friday is insane for me. So he has to use his squad. So there has to be some changes because if he let's say tomorrow he goes with the same 11, he's then going to have to change it for Friday, surely, unless they're flying. I don't know. I know the footballers and they can play. I think he always said, was it 2 games in 4 days or whatever? But at this stage, when we're playing 4 in 10, it's a bit wild, I think. So maybe he has to make changes in that respect.
Unless if you just go and kill them off early in the first half and then make a bunch of changes in the second half and rest them for the second game.
Yeah, I'm still adamant, if Somerville would have scored that goal early doors, we'd have smashed them, We'd have smashed
game.
them.
I think so as well. It's the other side of the coin is you've managers that do different kind of things. Like you've managers that will look at a side and go, fix it. You guys didn't do it at the weekend. You get a chance to fix it. Every one of you, same team, go fix it. Go prove that it was a blip. Go sort that out. You've managers who do that, but then you've got managers that will look and go, well, we did look a bit leggy. Probably needs a bit of freshening up. Probably needs a bit more directness because maybe Stoke are expecting us to go out there with Cree and Somerville, and he goes, Cree and Nanto, and he goes, nope, I'm going to go 2 more direct players. I'm going to go with whatever. Byram on the wing, Byram on left back, and Dan James. For me, Firpo's out of the team. For me, I think Firpo comes out. The fact that he said he didn't want to make the injury any worse.
Yeah,
I think he brings Byram in, and he did talk about Byram being back in training for 10 days and not being involved in match days. So I think Byram comes back in at left back. But I changed both fullbacks.
Yeah, I think there's a case for it, definitely. Which do you think is the more difficult game, or is it because obviously we were beat by Stoke previously. We play Sheff Wednesday on Friday. That was a draw at Elland Road. They're both in decent form. This is my thing. We can look at the fixtures and say, we've got so many games against the bottom half, but for 2 weeks on the trot, teams in the relegation zone have been winning. You know what I mean? So it's
Wednesday won't train a bounce.
Yeah, I think we're due to drop more points, as much as this'll pain people, because we've got Millwall after that as well. I think, like Farke said today, if we can win our home games and get points away, I still think that'll be all right and we'll still stand us in good stead. I know people won't want to hear it, but I do think, is 4 points a good return out of these next 2?
I'm reluctant now.
I hear it. Yeah.
I mean this before Saturday's game as well. I'd have taken 7 just because with one dodgy fixture like it was. It's just a shame it's come the first one out of the 3. But we really no. But I think to be fair, with the tomorrow they'll be bang up for it. Whoever plays, it's at home. He's going to be bang at it. Is Farke? He's going to be into him. I really do think he's going to get them going. I think we'll be flying tomorrow. I think Friday's a bit more of if they're going to have a sticky game, I think it's more likely to be the Friday than it is tomorrow. I think we'll be flying tomorrow. I really do. Plus, I'm there, so I'm just biased in that sense.
Happy days. What about you, JT? Any thoughts?
I think, listen, they're both going to be very, very easy games. I think we're going to bounce back. I think, listen, this is the business end of the season. I think we start off tomorrow with a good 3-0 victory. I think we keep a clean sheet. Everything is nice, clean. Confidence starts to build. We go into Friday. Everyone's like, is the squad going to be fresh? Doesn't matter what you're saying about the squad going to be fresh. We go in there on Friday and layeth the smackdown on all of their candy asses. And listen, everyone's starting to question, is there going to be a wobble? Is there going to be a bobble? Are Leeds going to get sucked back into this dogfight with Southampton? Are they going to start pipping us? Listen, this is where we shut everyone up and say, listen, that was one little blip. It was a couple of games. And this is where we come back and start another cruise up to the top. And hopefully Leicester start dropping some points in there in the meantime and we start climbing up there. But listen, I'm still going into these games with confidence because even, as you said on Saturday, even though I didn't think it was a great performance, even though we really let ourselves down, we should have won that game. We should. I'm still sat here saying we had the chances to kill them off. It was a poor performance, and we still really should have won that game. So I don't really think that going into these next 2 games, as long as we play our own game, as long as we don't get in our own heads, I don't see how these sides would cause us any problem.
I think that's fair. I think that is fair, Joe.
I agree. I think we bounce back. I think we get 6 points in the next 2 games.
Love that. I absolutely love that, mate. I hope we do. Because we need it, and I just don't want to give more ammunition to
I'm more worried about Millwall.
This shit.
Yeah. I'm more worried about Millwall. When I saw Neil Harris take the Millwall job, I went, "Oh, fuck, we have."
Yeah, I said the same. I've been saying,
yeah. But outside of that, I think we'll be fine.
I think Stoke under Schumacher, they're going to come and play. They'll try to, because Schumacher plays that way. Yeah, exactly.
Come and play.
Yeah. And Sheffield Wednesday will be tough, but we can do them. Look, I did put a poll out before this video started to ask how many points will Leeds get this season. Between 0 and 2 got 8%. Not this season, sorry, in the next 2 games. 2 points between now and the end would be bad. 0 to 2 points says 8%. 15% said 2 to 4, and 77% said between 4 and 6. So I think the majority of us think that we'll win these next 2. And look, man, we drew a game and are closer to Leicester. Imagine being a Leicester fan right now. Like there's bigger shit going down because they could be on for the big
in the row and FFP.
Oh, the biggest bottle ever, mate. And they've still got the FA Cup game against Chelsea to play as well. So
welcome back to the Premier League. Here's a 10-point penalty deduction straight away.
No. It's mad, isn't it? I've seen something about Southampton as well. Southampton have got issues with their finances. So listen, say what you want about that previous regime. They were tight, but at least it's left us in a decent state, I guess. And with the 49ers back in moving, we're still going up, man. This isn't shaking shit at me, man. We dropped Airport, we drew against Huddersfield, their biggest game of the season. Huddersfield will probably lose tomorrow night, you know what I mean? They put everything into that game, and on another day, Kreese goes in the back of the net. I think, like you said, the lads will be right up for this, and Elland Road Crab will be right up for this, and they'll say, right, okay, let's lay down another marker here and tell them a draw is not a blip. Farke said this. He was asked the question, and he said, this is not a blip. Like, where do you get that from? Forget the FA Cup game. Let's not even talk about that, because I know we lost that game, but we were great in that game. I don't see that as a blip, okay? For me, anyway. We drop points, man. It is what it is, man. Fuck. Honestly, we are going to go up this season. I still say it with chest. Like, I still believe that. Got the best manager. Go on, Jack.
I also think it's hard to break records. Like, when there's got to be a reason why, and then to get over that. Like, I think if we'd have won, we'd have probably gone 13 games winning. Once you get over that line, then it's, you can do a couple more, you've got to fly over it. But there's got to be something just in, I don't want to get deeper out, but just like in life where it's getting to a point and everybody seems to get to this point, and then it's hard to get over that.
Bro, I'll never forget the Arsenal 49th game when they played Man United. And Man United beat them, didn't they? And then that was it. And it's like that one more game.
Yeah, it's so hard.
It gets in the psyche. Man.
Even if you do everything. It's still a great, you've still equaled a record that stood for nearly 100 years. Like, you've still equaled that record. In nearly 100 years, you're the only side to have leveled that record. It's still an incredible run. Like, it's still an incredible achievement for this group of players. So, yeah, I mean, I still think we'll probably drop more points between now and the end of the season and still go up. We've all said this. This is where my head scratching's been at watching a lot of content over the last couple of days is, we all said we were going to drop points between now and the end of the season. And then we went and dropped points. And everyone's like, oh my God, I can't believe we dropped points. Like, you all said we would. And we did. So, well done. We predicted this. We'll be fine. We're going to drop points. We are going to drop more points by the end of the season. We are not going to win every single game. And neither are Southampton. And neither are Ipswich. And Leicester right now look like they can't win a game. They've lost 3 on the bounce. So, it's going to happen. I still think we'll be fine. I still think
if they do go unbeaten, you just got to hold your hands up, haven't you? Really,
100%.
You were phenomenal 100%. All season. So
there'll be people saying sack Farke. They will. Like, even if we don't go
season, you finish the season on more points than we did with Bielsa, and if we don't go up,
Yeah.
it's because there was better teams. And
Yeah,
that's
that's
just, you've got
it.
to be able to
That's
step
what I'm
for
saying.
football. Sometimes it's not.
100%.
Sometimes it's not your time. Sometimes
Yeah,
it is.
yeah, yeah.
Sometimes it isn't.
We've been here before, man, with Bielsa's first season in Derby County.
Yeah.
We all went into hiding for a couple of weeks. We licked our wounds, and then we came back the following season and dicked it. So, it's not the end of the world. Yeah, we might lose some players, but, we move. We'll be all right. But listen, that ain't going to happen anyway. But just to say, it's all right. We did have a super chat coming in saying, would you take Sargent over Bamford or Piroe? No.
Never.
He's having a purple patch. The guy's gash. Napoleon Dynamite looking thing. He's at Norwich City. He's terrible. Also,
Championship striker.
yeah, exactly.
No.
And he's a
Wouldn't do anything.
USMNT player, and I can't deal with the Stan accounts, so no, thank you.
And by does he mean like both? We'd have to give them both.
to do it away.
We lose 2 players.
It'd be like Becky and Steve Morrison all over again, wouldn't
Yeah,
it? Do you know what I mean?
Like, I know Piroe's having a bad year, but to give him and Bamford away, like, your boy won't get one free. No, we're not.
It's like on Championship Manager when you just desperately try to sign a player and you just think, oh, just
Throw everyone.
them all in, boost it up.
I play this online manager called Soccer Manager, right? And you can do that. You can basically all your players, they've got a valuation, and you can just basically buy them as long as it meets the valuation. So I just throw loads of shitty players. Yeah, definitely. Right, let's finish up. JT, you haven't spoken for a while, so I'm going to give you the final word. Just before you do, though, Jack, is there anything on the channel that you want to make anyone aware of?
No, just shit vids every day, or every other day. Yeah, man.
Yeah, man. Keep watching, folks. Go check him out. City of Leeds fans, great content over there. Joe, what about yourself?
News video today does a story about Vober possibly being the next one out the door on a permanent move.
Good.
And the match day preview myself and Stats did earlier on.
Good stuff. And JT, before you say the final word, mate, anything going on your channel, or are you just poorly like me, bedridden?
I'm bedridden, but tomorrow we will be streaming the game. There will be content coming out around that and more content coming this week. Listen, you can't keep the dog down for too long. You can try what you want, but in a day or two, best believe we are going to be back and firing on all cylinders. And I just want to say, is this the final word? Great branding, by the way, by saying that. This is the Joe people aren't seeing. He's business savvy. He's clued on 24 hours, 7 days a week. Great branding. And thank you guys for having me on. Thank you, Jack. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Joe. And thank you. I was going to say Lynch. Sorry there for a second. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, everybody. And thank you guys in the chat, man. Always a great community here. Absolutely popping off. Let's try and get those likes up before
we're losing viewers, man. Say the final word.
The final word is thank you guys so much for tuning in. It's been a pleasure. And yeah, that's all.
No, final words. Not just words. Give me the final word.
The final words are Leeds are about to go undefeated for the rest of the season and win every single game. I don't know what you mean here.
The final word
I will
is
see you guys
undefeated.
very, very soon. Thank you guys so much for watching. It's been a pleasure, as always. But I guys will see you very, very soon. Au revoir, my brothers.
The final word after all that is probably undefeated, I reckon.
Undefeated.
Right, we'll see you in a bit.
Oh,
Bye-bye.